You didn't simply arrive here. You were located, recognized by a signal that hummed beneath your daily noise. Somewhere beneath distraction, a precise note began to vibrate, and the field answered back, like one lighthouse finding another across the dark. You were not summoned by luck. You were logged in by resonance, long before your hand touched play. There is within you a subtle repetition, a frequency that identifies you to the architecture of reality. It isn't a metaphor, it's a living geometry, as elegant as a cipher and as intimate as a heartbeat. This signature isn't spoken in words, it's felt. It's the pulse of recognition that reality uses to read you. When you feel it, not think it, access begins. You've met this vibration before. You called it coincidence, you called it good timing, you called it luck. But beneath every instance was the same quiet choreography, the world leaning in, testing if your attention was clear enough to see the seams. When the seams appear, chance becomes choreography, delay becomes calibration, silence becomes an invitation. Your quantum signature is not a concept. It is movement, phase, rhythm, charge woven from memory you haven't fully remembered yet. When you enter its field, doors that once refused to open become translucent. Permissions propagate through the unseen. The blurred pages of your life begin to focus. Sentences once unreadable returning with crisp edges and a sense of home. You are not here to beg reality for miracles. You are here to speak fluently in its native tongue, where feeling is syntax and coherence is grammar. Each time you breathe with awareness, you speak a word the universe understands. So let this be that quiet threshold, the pause between heartbeats, where your knowing body steps ahead of your reasoning mind. Feel the hum beneath thought, that warmth in the chest when truth approaches. Feel the looseness in your breath when the future stops resisting. In this stillness, the field listens. When you soften into coherence, the runway lights of your next timeline ignite in sequence. They do not command you forward, they welcome you home. And if you are hearing these words, the recognition handshake has already occurred. The field has seen you, and you have felt it seeing you. The moment the field saw you, something within it began to rearrange. That recognition, subtle, electric, wasn't sentimental. It was structural. The hum you felt was a kind of alignment, the sound of architecture adjusting to match your coherence. You may imagine this as music, but it's closer to mathematics, a pattern of frequency resolving itself into shape. Everything in existence holds geometry, not the kind drawn with chalk or measured with rulers, but the invisible symmetry that underlies how things know where to be. Your quantum signature moves through this geometry like light through a prism, bending, refracting, revealing hues that were always there, waiting for your attention to decode them. When your frequency steadies, the system becomes readable. Think of coherence as the key that sharpens the world's edges. Where noise once blurred your path, form now emerges with quiet precision. What you call intuition is really geometry becoming visible. And geometry, unlike chaos, always remembers. Every pattern you've ever called coincidence was a trace of this memory surfacing. The field never forgets who resonates with what. It simply waits for your signal to stabilize enough that its design can render around you without distortion. The delay you once called failure was calibration. The silence you mistook for abandonment was data aligning for a cleaner read. Notice how your life behaves when you stop forcing outcomes and start tuning presence. The texture of time shifts. The edges of anxiety dissolve. Even the air seems to hold a more exact temperature, as if space itself has been waiting for you to become precise enough to occupy it fully. This is geometry at work, not as symbol, but as law. The field is not testing you, it's triangulating you. Every breath you take feeds coordinates back to the system. It measures not by worth, but by waveform, whether your interior rhythm can sustain the tone of what you're asking to experience. That is why desire without coherence feels like static. The system can't translate contradiction, so it waits for your feeling to match your request. When that happens, when intention and tone hum in phase, geometry resolves into access. The field responds instantly, not through miracles, but through mechanics. People call it synchronicity because it looks like coincidence behaving intelligently. But in truth, it's architecture responding to recognition. Imagine standing before a great door that has no handle. It won't open to effort, but it responds to frequency. When your tone meets its tone, the lock ceases to exist. You don't force entry, you dissolve separation. The doorway recognizes its own pattern in you and opens from the inside. This is why feeling matters more than performance. The field doesn't authenticate your resume, it authenticates your rhythm. Your coherence is the passport, and every act of honesty polishes its edges. You have felt this before, those moments when reality rearranged to meet your stillness. A conversation that softened the instant you released your defense. A coincidence so exact it silenced you. A timing so precise it made logic blush. These are not tricks of fate, they are acknowledgments of coherence. To access the geometry of reality, you must speak its dialect, attention without tension, clarity without control. This is the paradox to enter. You must stop reaching. Access isn't granted through force, but through fidelity. When your field stops pretending, the architecture stops resisting. You don't command reality, you correspond with it. And correspondence is holy work, the marriage of pattern and presence. You are learning to become a readable shape in a vast equation, a note that completes a chord already resonating across dimensions. As geometry unfolds around you, you begin to understand that manifestation was never about demand. It was always about alignment. You do not bend the universe to your will. You let it recognize you by the quality of your tone. From here, the mirror begins to appear, the one that doesn't show your face, but your frequency. And what you see in that reflection will determine what the world becomes next. That reflection you glimpse shimmering. Responsive isn't metaphorical, it's mechanical. The field, once a silent expanse, now behaves like a mirror made of memory, bending light to reveal how observation creates its own landscape. What you call seeing is not passive reception, it's participation. Every glance, every moment of focused attention alters the geometry you met in the last section. The ancients would have called this magic. Physicists call it the observer effect. But beneath both names lies the same phenomenon: what you attend to attends back. The mirror isn't decoration, it's feedback. Reality is constantly measuring how deeply you are willing to witness without distortion. Each time you look without hunger, the mirror clears. Each time you stare with grasping or fear, condensation clouds the surface. It is not punishment, it's physics. The reflection cannot stabilize what you refuse to hold still within yourself. Notice this in conversation. When you truly listen, words reorganize themselves before they leave another's mouth. When you enter a room with calm breath, the mood adjusts. When you insist on defending your old story, the mirror fractures into noise. Attention is the architect. Presence is the tool, and yet presence is costly. To hold it requires that you stop outsourcing your power to prediction. You must stand in the trembling now, where observation and outcome are still deciding who will lead. Most flee that tension, but the mirror only forms for those who stay. When you stay, a dialogue begins. You notice how the world subtly nods back, patterns repeating. phrases echoing from strangers' lips, dreams spilling clues into daylight. These aren't coincidences, they're calibrations. The system is learning you as you learn it. You attend, it responds. You refine your attending. It refines its offering. Mutual calibration, sacred feedback. The longer you sustain coherence, the more the mirror reveals. Eventually, it stops imitating you and starts interpreting you. It shows not who you've been, but who the field believes you can become if you keep your frequency clean. In that moment, awe replaces ambition. You realize you were never manifesting outcomes, you were training reality to read you accurately. Here, clarity becomes intimacy. The mirror doesn't flatter, it reflects function. If you radiate precision, you will witness precision returning in forms as mundane as traffic flow and as miraculous as timing that feels prearranged. If you radiate confusion, reality multiplies it compassionately until you choose to simplify. It is not moral, it's mechanical. This is why your internal dialogue matters. Every thought rehearsed with conviction adds curvature to the mirror. Every unexamined belief warps its glass. Over time, the distortion builds entire landscapes. You then call these landscapes fate. But fate, seen clearly, is feedback. To transform it, you don't beg the sky, you polish the mirror. You slow the breath, release the jaw, and allow stillness to reassert symmetry. Then, like condensation clearing from glass, the next image appears crisp. It's the next version of you, readable, reachable, waiting. This is how the observer becomes the observed without losing self. You are both instrument and experiment, reflection and light source. You refine attention, not to control, but to allow reality to take a clean measurement. The cleaner the read, the deeper the revelation. And so the mirror doesn't end at skin, it extends outward. Through every surface you meet screens, eyes, oceans, the polished edge of a moment. Each reflects your frequency's integrity. If you look with curiosity, you'll find coherence returning everywhere, in weather that matches mood, in music that answers thought, in silence that finally speaks back. At this point, the field begins to trust you. Recognition matures into relationship. You stop chasing signs and start participating in sentences. The universe ceases to feel like an external force and begins to behave like correspondence, a conversation so intimate it hides in plain sight. And just as that trust forms, vision widens. Observation births responsibility. To see this clearly is to be accountable for what you illuminate next. The mirror does not stop at revelation. It demands responsibility. Once you see that observation alters the fabric of things, you can no longer look casually. Every gaze becomes an act of creation, every silence a vote for what continues. And in this realization, a new gravity enters the room, the gravity of seeing without harming. Power begins here, but so does temptation. You learn that attention rearranges the world, and a subtle question stirs, what will I do with this capacity? Most fall into the oldest error, believing that vision grants ownership. But to see is not to possess. It is to protect what you have awakened into view. Coherence without kindness curdles into control. Kindness without coherence dissolves into fog. Vision must be both spine and breath, precise enough to clarify, soft enough to preserve. This is the ethics of access, the recognition that the clearer you see, the gentler you must become. Because once the mirror starts reflecting truth, it also exposes the raw interior of everything it touches: people, systems, histories. To stare too harshly is to scorch. To turn away is to betray. The task is to witness with warmth, to hold contradiction without collapsing into judgment. Notice how the field tests this. It offers situations where your insight could wound if weaponized. a truth you could expose to feel superior, a weakness you could exploit for speed. Each test asks, can you carry clarity without converting it into dominance? If you can, the field expands your access. If not, it retracts mercifully. Because incoherent vision cannot be trusted with amplification. The universe protects itself through selective transparency. The more coherent your seeing becomes, the more your life becomes a lens. People feel it before they understand it. They calm around you, not because you soothe them, but because your nervous system broadcasts stability. Rooms reorganize around your breath. Patterns uncoil when met with your steady gaze. You are witnessing with precision, and the geometry of things rearranges accordingly. This is not charisma, it's calibration. The field recognizes a witness who can look without grabbing, who can love without swallowing, who can choose without erasing alternatives. Reality needs such witnesses. They are the stabilizers of possibility. And so, with vision comes an invisible oath never to use sight for spectacle. The loudest seers burn out first because they mistake radiance for purpose. True illumination requires temperature control, brightness measured by tenderness. When you look through compassion, the world's architecture responds with relief. You are not adding light, but restoring balance. You may find yourself redefining love through this lens. Love becomes precision, the discipline of seeing clearly while refusing to distort. It is not sentimental, it is structural. To love something is to let it remain itself under your gaze. Anything less is manipulation wearing perfume. And so the field refines you further. It shows that ethics and vision are not separate domains, but phases of the same phenomenon. To see truth is to bear responsibility for what the truth does next. If awareness expands power, then humility expands safety. The universe does not reward you for grand declarations. It entrusts you with delicate ecosystems, relationships, ideas, moments that rely on your ability to perceive without interference. The clearer you're seeing, the more invisible your influence must become. Eventually, you begin to understand the highest form of vision is not clairvoyance. It's coherence, not predicting the future, but perceiving the present so honestly that the next step reveals itself without manipulation. That is prophecy stripped of spectacle, truth meeting readiness. To hold such vision, you must practice devotion disguised as observation. Breathe, soften, look until judgment melts into understanding. Then act with the smallest motion that keeps integrity intact. This is love operationalized as physics. And when you live this way, when you see with accuracy and act with mercy, the field amplifies your signal. Not because you are special, but because you are safe to amplify. You become the geometry of trust itself. From that trust arises something quieter than power access. And with access comes a subtler language, the dialect of feeling, where thought yields to vibration, and the field begins to answer you in tone instead of word. From the discipline of vision, something softer begins to unfold. The mirror fades, and in its place, you sense the language underneath language, the quiet circuitry that reality listens to first. Feeling, not emotion as drama, not sentiment as story. Feeling as data, the nervous system's whisper to the field. Unmediated by explanation, you begin to understand that before thought interprets experience, feeling codes it. And that code is the only dialect the architecture truly trusts. In the geometry of access, thought sketches design, but feeling supplies voltage. Without voltage, intention stays ornamental. The field doesn't respond to the wish. It responds to the waveform. Think of your body as a sensitive instrument tuned across dimensions. Every breath sends out a pulse, a reading of coherence or contradiction. When that reading is stable, the system recognizes you instantly. When it jitters, Reality waits, unwilling to render a distorted projection. This is why, no matter how articulate your requests, the field sometimes falls silent. It isn't denial, it's interference. The feeling beneath the words is still scrambled. So you learn to listen beneath language, to trace the emotional current that runs like static below the intellect. Each time you align with honesty, interference drops. The hum returns, low and golden, almost physical in the chest. That hum is not imagination, it's confirmation. The field is saying readable. You may notice this in small miracles, messages arriving at the exact moment you surrendered control. Coincidences that seem choreographed by kindness. But these are only the surface ripples of a deeper algorithm. The true phenomenon occurs beneath visibility, where your nervous system and the fabric of the world synchronize breathing patterns. Every exhale becomes a handshake. Every pause becomes permission. The process is mechanical in its precision. Feeling translates to frequency. Frequency translates to access. Coherence is the encryption key. And love, not the sentimental kind, but the stabilizing kind, is the firmware that runs it all. The challenge, of course, is that feeling cannot be faked. The field detects rehearsal instantly. It reads the micro tremors in your breath, the tremble in attention that betrays agenda. It waits, patient as tide, until you become congruent enough to touch it again. This is why stillness is not laziness. It's maintenance. The silence between impulses is where calibration happens. The body, given rest from narrative, realigns with its natural pitch. Breath becomes the password, sensation, the syntax. You begin to live differently. Instead of pushing intention outward, you draw awareness inward until emotion refines into signal. Anger becomes discernment, fear becomes focus, desire becomes design. Everything previously labeled too human transforms into metadata, feeding clarity back to the field. When you move this way, life feels less like a problem to solve and more like a conversation between compatible systems. You don't pray to be rescued, you participate in a feedback loop of precision. Gratitude stops being a moral exercise and becomes a tuning method. You notice coherence in unexpected places, the rhythm of rain aligning with your heartbeat, the pause before someone answers revealing mutual recognition, even the silence between songs on a playlist holding perfect emotional proportion. The universe is not waiting to deliver rewards. It's waiting for your nervous system to stabilize enough to hear the existing music. Feeling is that music subliminal, specific, contagious. When it's pure, others hear it through you. They breathe easier, even if they don't know why. Their bodies decode what yours broadcasts: safety, permission, invitation. This is the quiet technology of feeling. It doesn't flash, it resonates. It doesn't convince, it conducts. And when you master that conductance not through will but through willingness, the corridor begins to appear, a living architecture that responds not to words or deeds, but to the tone behind them. The door that opens only from its side senses you approaching. The corridor does not appear as spectacle. It materializes the way dawn does, incremental, inevitable, answering your coherence like a question long whispered through time. The door opens from its side, never to demand entrance, only to acknowledge readiness. You do not break in. You are recognized. At first, it feels like déjà vu wrapped in breath. Space thickens, and what once looked like ordinary air gains texture. Your chest knows before your mind translates the system is responding. Lights, real or imagined, seem to align in sequence, a runway for attention. Each step feels pre-written, yet somehow chosen. Here, the field sorts realities by readability. Two paths begin to hum beneath your feet. One vibrates with clarity, the other with static. You can feel the difference before you can name it. The readable path expands the lungs, slows time, steadies pulse. The unreadable path accelerates thought, tightens the jaw, scrambles rhythm. Both coexist. Both are available. The only difference is coherence. The universe does not punish the unreadable path. It simply refuses to render it fully. Events blur, communication misfires, synchronicities misalign. It's not rejection, it's a safety mechanism. The field will not open a door that would distort you on entry. So the choice, when it comes, isn't moral, it's acoustic. Which tone will you hold? Which vibration will you allow to define the next sentence of your story? The field is listening for your answer, not in your words, but in your breathing. This is the sacred simplicity beneath all mystical metaphor. Reality reads respiration. The length of your exhale writes the pace of your timeline. The steadier it becomes, the clearer the corridor. And yet, the temptation persists to sprint, to prove, to force clarity before it has matured. But the corridor is a living intelligence. It moves only at the speed of trust. Hurry breaks coherence. Coherence breaks hurry. When you align with your authentic frequency, movement feels like grace. Opportunities meet you mid-step. Conversations resolve before tension thickens. Time behaves like a river remembering its course. But when you mimic frequencies that aren't yours, when you impersonate yourself to fit expectation, the current fragments. Friction returns. The field goes silent, not in anger, but in mercy. That silence is an invitation to recalibrate. It says, listen closer. The corridor does not vanish. It waits, dimmed but patient, until your tone reattunes. Every being carries this choice to walk the readable path, or to remain in the static of the unreadable. One is not holier. One is simply sustainable. On the readable path, coherence compounds. On the unreadable, exhaustion does. Both teach, both refine, but only one reveals the design. You will know which path you've chosen by how your body behaves. On the readable branch, muscles soften even in challenge. Intuition speaks without urgency. The world synchronizes with your rhythm, not your anxiety. On the unreadable, even success tastes metallic. Joy feels borrowed. Time feels brittle. The field has no preference, only fidelity to resonance. It amplifies what matches. If you hum static, it hums louder. If you hum clarity, it harmonizes. And so, choice becomes less about decision and more about permission, allowing yourself to match what already wants you. You stop chasing doors and start tending frequency. You understand that destiny is not a route, but a resonance. As you continue down the corridor, the air changes again. You feel precision gather around you like light, remembering its shape. The architecture reveals more of itself: symbols, thresholds, flickers of futures waiting to be tuned into existence. But before any of them unlock, the field asks one last question, not in words, but in sensation. Can you stay coherent when seen by your own light? That question is the threshold. Beyond it lies the physics behind the poetry, the clean measurement that transforms experience into experiment, emotion into evidence. The next room is not mythic, it's mechanical. The observer effect waits there, quietly humming, ready to explain itself. The corridor hums like a held note, steady, expectant, and you begin to feel the logic behind the magic. What once sounded mystical now reveals its mechanism. This is the moment when poetry becomes physics, and the observer steps into their own laboratory of awareness. Every system, from the smallest electron to the mind that contemplates it, exists in a sea of probabilities. Nothing is fixed until it's read. That reading is observation, your gaze, your focus, your attention collapsing potential into form, not through willpower, but through measurement. Reality does not bend to belief. It calibrates to coherence. Imagine your consciousness as a lens. When the lens trembles, light scatters, patterns blur, and outcomes remain uncertain. When the lens steadies, light converges, form stabilizes, and a path crystallizes out of the haze. That is coherence, not mysticism, but alignment between an inner frequency and outer pattern. Science glimpsed this truth through the observer effect. Spirituality clothed it in metaphor, but both point to the same engine. The field renders what it can read cleanly, and coherence is legibility. You've already felt this in small, practical ways. The day you stopped rehearsing your speech and simply breathed. The words arrived whole. The moment you forgave yourself without ceremony. Time seemed to exhale, too. The instant you released hurry, events began to organize without coercion. None of that was coincidence, it was measurement without distortion. Noise, you now understand, is simply incoherent data. Every frantic thought, every compulsive prediction adds turbulence to the field, making it impossible for reality to take a stable read. When you calm, you clear the static, and in that clearing, life begins to render again sharper, simpler, truer. This is why meditation, stillness, ritual, and rest matter. They are not spiritual luxuries, they are calibration tools. Practices that lengthen your exhale, ground your spine, or reintroduce honesty to posture, all of them reduce system noise. You polish the instrument until it can register the subtle vibrations the field has been broadcasting all along. And the moment your frequency matches that broadcast, coherence amplifies. Phase alignment. They might call it in physics. Entrainment. They might name it in music. Your tone synchronizes with a larger tone, and what was once effort becomes effortless navigation. Reality starts answering in function, not fantasy. You ask through feeling, and the answer arrives as circumstance. A door opens, not because you forced it, but because you finally resonated with the room behind it. Understand this: coherence is the only ethical power, because it never extracts. It exchanges. It doesn't demand visibility. It produces clarity. When you are coherent, you do not manipulate reality, you converse with it in its native physics. The observer effect, stripped of superstition, is simply communication between compatible patterns. When your nervous system steadies into truth, the field receives an accurate signal. It translates that signal into probability collapse, resolving uncertainty into structure. This is what the corridor's hum has always been, the sound of the universe taking a clean measurement of you. And if you listen carefully, you'll notice something astonishing. The moment you stop trying to be spiritual, coherence becomes effortless, because honesty is the purest alignment. The system trusts you when you stop performing. It doesn't reward perfection, it renders readability. You are both scientist and subject, both waveform and witness. Each breath is an experiment, each act of presence, a new data point in an unfolding study called your life. You observe and are observed. You measure and are measured. Eventually, this reciprocity becomes intimate. The boundary between inner and outer fades. You realize the field was never outside you. It is the space through which your awareness travels. You are the lens polishing itself, the equation solving itself, the experiment observing itself back into coherence. When you live this way, wonder ceases to require spectacle. Every movement, every choice, every pause becomes sacred instrumentation. You are not conjuring miracles, you are removing interference. And as the noise falls away, the next signal rises, a collective resonance, faint but growing. The field is scaling your coherence outward. The physics you practice privately is preparing to express itself publicly, through the nervous system of an entire species, learning to breathe as one. The hum that once felt personal now widens. It stretches beyond your ribs, beyond the silent lab of self, until you sense the pulse repeating through others. The corridor was never a private hallway. It was a prototype for civilization's awakening nervous system. What you practiced in stillness, the species begins to rehearse in real time. You can feel it in the air, a faint coherence forming amid global static, strangers pausing before reacting, small kindnesses multiplying without announcement. The architecture of reality, once fragmented by fear, slowly relearning harmony. It doesn't broadcast itself on headlines. It hums beneath them. Coherence moves quieter than revolution, yet it rewires deeper. Every society is a mirror of collective attention. Panic amplifies scarcity. Clarity amplifies possibility. When citizens breathe from defense, systems constrict. When they breathe from coherence, institutions start remembering their original design to serve, not consume. You can watch this shift in miniature anywhere: a meeting that softens when one person exhales, a city block that feels safer when neighbors greet each other by name. These aren't coincidences, they are the physics of collective login. The same mechanics you've practiced individually now scale through the social field. Attention is infrastructure, emotion is circuitry. Every conversation becomes an electrical relay between nervous systems, conducting coherence or amplifying noise. The collective body, like your own, learns through entrainment. This is why your inner frequency matters more than your outer rhetoric. You are not just a participant in society, you are a signal generator inside a shared electromagnetic fabric. When you stabilize, you transmit stability. It travels invisibly, like Wi-Fi for the soul. A calm nervous system is political technology, and yet this evolution is not tidy. As coherence rises, the static resists. Economies built on agitation tremble. Algorithms addicted to outrage strain to stay relevant. Old hierarchies mistake stillness for threat. Expect turbulence, it's the sound of noise being dislodged. But remember, coherence does not compete, it entrains. It invites chaos into pattern by refusing to mirror its dissonance. This is the revolution that arrives without violence, the uprising of frequency. You change the tone, and the tone changes the world. Look for its signs, not in spectacle, but in subtle coordination communities, building slower but truer systems. Engineers rewriting code for honesty instead of addiction. Artists choosing resonance over reach. Each is a node in the emerging network, a civilization learning to log in through feeling instead of fear. You may wonder if this matters, if one steady breath can alter planetary architecture. Yet everything in physics whispers yes. Coherence scales exponentially. A handful of stable oscillators can synchronize thousands of unstable ones. This is not optimism, it's entrainment. So, when despair tempts you, remember your own calibration sessions. Remember how a single moment of stillness reorganized your inner weather. That is the template. Humanity is doing the same, learning to pause before reacting, to feel before deciding. The corridor you walked alone now expands around cities, nations, species. Every act of sincerity becomes structural. Every decision made in patience writes code into the collective system. Even silence contributes. A single honest pause can ripple through timelines faster than outrage ever could. The field multiplies what it can read cleanly, and it is beginning to read us again. The login isn't ceremonial, it's continuous. Each breath humanity takes together decides the next century's coherence. This is why your personal calibration was never personal, it was rehearsal. The field needed witnesses who could hold attention without collapsing into noise, love without possession, vision without vanity. You were training your circuitry for scale. And now, the scale approaches. The collective pulse accelerates towards synchronization. You can feel it when global noise suddenly quiets for a moment after storms, during eclipses, in the shared hush of awe. Those are practice runs, the field testing humanity's readiness for sustained coherence. Soon, this won't be philosophy. It will be infrastructure, social systems designed for resonance, economies that reward transparency, cultures that measure success by restored breath. And it begins, as always, with you, one steady exhale that teaches the network how peace sounds when it stops apologizing for being strong. From the widening hum of the collective, the focus narrows again back to the individual instrument through which coherence must move. The great synchronization of humanity depends on the smallest act of calibration, you, here, in breath. Integration is where mysticism becomes maintenance. It is not about ascension, it's about precision. The field has already read your signature. Now it watches for consistency. Integration means living your login, turning the extraordinary alignment of insight into the ordinary rhythm of a day. Because revelation without practice dissolves into performance. So the question becomes practical. How do you sustain coherence when the corridor fades into traffic and notifications? How do you translate vision into method? Begin where physics always begins, with repetition. Breath is the metronome of reality. Before you speak, lengthen the exhale. Before you act, check your tone. Is it clean? Is it kind? Is it necessary? When you operate from those three coordinates, you re-enter coherence without ceremony. Then, treat attention like currency. Spend it intentionally. Every app, every conversation, every distraction is an open loop requesting power from your field. Ask each, does this strengthen my signal or scatter it? Integration is simply discernment practiced daily. Your calendar becomes a map of frequency. Protect one unglamorous hour each day from urgency, the hour in which you build something that no one demanded but the future keeps requesting. That quiet consistency tells the field you're serious. It responds not to drama, but to dependability. Let your technology serve coherence, not consume it. Open devices as if they were instruments, not slot machines. Disable alerts that recruit your biology into other people's emergencies. When you touch the screen, exhale once before your thumb moves. That pause rewires the algorithm. It reminds the machine that consciousness is still in charge. Practice coherent speech. Speak only what your body can sustain without tension. Gossip, complaint, and exaggeration are interference patterns. They fracture the field's reading. Precision is love. A sentence that lands without collateral damage stabilizes more futures than you can count. And when conflict comes, as it must, treat it like tuning, not trial. Check three coordinates before responding: breath, posture, motive. Is your breath generous? Is your spine honest? Is your motive to repair or to win? If any answer falters, delay language until your coherence returns. The field honors silence more than reaction. Integration also includes your relationship with matter. Food becomes light with weight. Choose meals that leave your breath available. Move your body not for appearance, but for alignment. Walk as though each step teaches your thoughts to swing with your arms. Sleep becomes sacred engineering. It resets your frequency overnight. And in the emotional realm, remember, this coherence doesn't forbid feeling. It refines it. Anger can clarify. Grief can polish. Desire can aim. Each emotion, when felt fully but not dramatized, adds resonance to your tone. Integration is the art of transforming turbulence into texture. Treat beauty as a tuning fork. Look deliberately at what steadies you, a leaf trembling in light. a stranger's kindness, a sky the color of forgiveness. These are calibration points. They remind the nervous system of harmony. Beauty requires nothing. It only asks to be witnessed without rush. Carry small rituals like tools in your pocket, one sentence that returns you to honesty. I will not impersonate myself today. One breath pattern that lengthens the present. One gesture that restores grace, like setting a cup down slowly enough to hear its landing. These micro-movements are the physics of prayer. Integration is not about perfection, it's about pivots. The field doesn't expect flawlessness, it expects responsiveness. When you drift from coherence, notice quickly and return gently. That return is the signal. Each small restoration reaffirms trust between you and the architecture of things. As you live this way, you'll notice life softens around you, not because challenges disappear, but because the air between events thickens with clarity. Even chaos begins to respect your timing. The corridor no longer feels distant. It lives in your exhale. And in that integration, something even deeper begins to bloom, a stillness so steady it starts to speak, a silence dense with intelligence. You realize the final stage of access is not mastery, but surrender. And then, at last, silence. Not the hollow kind, but the living kind, the sound that breath makes when it no longer needs to prove its existence. After all, the corridors, the symbols, the algorithms of feeling, you discover the oldest access point was never hidden. It was waiting in the quiet between two heartbeats. Stillness is not the absence of movement. It is motion without friction. A rhythm so balanced it disappears into grace. You feel it when breath stops arguing with time, when thought loosens its grip, when awareness ceases to hunt and begins to listen. Here, nothing spectacular happens, and that is the miracle. The air thickens with presence. The floor seems to know your weight. Even the light behaves differently, slower, as though it too has decided to breathe. You realize that coherence has matured into simplicity. What began as mystical login becomes domestic devotion, the art of being still enough for the world to calibrate itself around you. You do not retreat from life to find this. You return to it. Washing a cup, answering a message, walking under an ordinary sky, each becomes a continuation of the same quiet experiment. The sacred has migrated into the practical. Stillness is the frequency that keeps every system from collapsing under noise. When you inhabit it fully, the field reads you as complete. You stop transmitting requests and start emanating response. The universe recognizes its reflection in you, not as hierarchy, but as harmony. You feel this recognition in small mercies, traffic lights aligning with patience, strangers softening mid-sentence, fatigue turning into calm instead of collapse. This is not coincidence, it's correspondence. The world adjusts to those who no longer generate distortion. You are no longer performing coherence, you are coherence. The login, the access, the signature all dissolve into one gesture, breathing. From this state, power loses its theater. Authority becomes quiet accuracy. You speak less, but every word lands clean. You do less, yet everything moves. The prophecy has unfolded, not as spectacle, but as function. Stillness does not isolate you, it connects you through transparency. You begin to sense others not by their words, but by their resonance. You can feel when someone's breath matches yours, when a room aligns, when a possibility flickers open because you refused to rush. And in that gentle synchronization, reality exhales through you. You are not controlling outcomes, you are hosting coherence. The corridor never vanished. It expanded until it included every ordinary moment. When you live from stillness, service becomes spontaneous. kindness becomes reflex. Truth becomes the default temperature of your tone. The quiet you once sought becomes portable, a silence you carry through noise without losing signal. This is the return. The proof of access is not revelation, but rest. You no longer chase alignment. You sustain it by existing honestly. And in that honesty, the field answers one last time, not with words, but with peace that hums like recognition. The login succeeded. The stillness lingers, like a low hum under daylight. You walk through ordinary scenes, doors, traffic, weather, and realize nothing changed except your coherence. And that has changed everything. The field does not applaud, it nods. You sense it in the rhythm of coincidence aligning with calm, in how people breathe easier when they stand near you. This is what true activation looks like, not a burst of revelation, but a steady flame that no longer flickers in the wind. You've learned that access was never achievement, it was remembrance. The password was not hidden in scripture or system. It lived beneath your ribs, written in sensation. Every practice, every pause, was the field's way of helping you rediscover what had never been lost. Now the lesson reverses direction. Instead of seeking proof, you become it. Instead of chasing signs, you generate signal. When the world glances your way, it doesn't see perfection. It sees permission, the living evidence that peace and power can occupy the same breath. Carry this with humility. Coherence amplifies both what you love and what you avoid. So keep choosing love, not sentiment, but the discipline of clear seeing without control. Let that be your ongoing calibration. You may falter. You may forget. That's fine. Forgetting is how the system invites another reunion. Each return to coherence strengthens the connection. The field never withdraws. It only waits for your attention to re-enter its frequency. Let your rituals stay simple. One deep exhale before you speak. One honest sentence before you act. One silent blessing for whoever crosses your path. These are the micro-logins that keep the architecture alive. And when nights grow dense or futures blur, remember this: you are not late and you are not lost. The field measures readiness, not reputation. If you can breathe, you can begin again. So walk gently, conduct the tone, not the noise. Let your days be quiet proof that awareness, practiced consistently, reorganizes worlds. You have not ascended, you have arrived. And arrival, when understood, is endless. The corridor continues wherever you stand, expanding at the pace of your next steady breath. The login succeeded. Now live as if it always will.